Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. What's up, DB?
What is going on?
How we doing this morning?
It's okay. It's okay.
You got a little rain last night. That's good.
Yeah, I was up quite a bit. It was not a good night of sleep. So it's whatever.
Just too exhilarated by that Cardinals-Chargers game?
No, some like the dogs were kind of acting weird, so they were all over the place, and so I got up for a while. And I actually sat outside.
Yeah?
Yeah. It was loud, and I kind of liked the lightning. And
did we get some lightning last night?
It lit up a little bit.
Okay.
And it seemed like I figured if a storm is coming, we ought to brace for it, right? Because it appears like a storm is coming. So
I feel like we're not talking about the weather anymore.
Yeah, we're not. So I mean,
I thought you already played Elkhorn South.
yeah, we might see them again. I don't know. They may be on our half the bracket. Freshmen have them tonight, so that'll be they're freshmen. They have a lot of those guys I was talking about yesterday.
Yeah.
So that'll be a good one. But yeah, it's very tense. And so there's this undertone of, well, the media's saying this, the media's not saying that. There's this.
Yeah, we got some of that in our mentions.
Well,
yesterday.
this is we're reading this, so then there's this toughen up emotionally, stop being losers. There's this, okay, what can I do differently? And where am I accountable? There's just like a lot of concoctions going on. So I think the hard part about something like this is it's real time. It's in season.
Yeah.
And you have a really good opponent.
Not a lot of time to fix it.
So you're not gonna. There's only two. This is just my opinion. There's only really two measures you can take. And one, you have to. The number one word right now is accountability. And it's across the board. It starts with the coaching staff, then coaching staff to players, then players to players. So just accountability across the board. You start with that, and I think you'll get the byproduct of what's missing next, and I think that's emotional toughness. Because that's what I see.
Yeah.
Right? I think the tape, and I don't even know why I put myself through it. It's just really undisciplined.
Yeah.
It's really undisciplined. And so I think what happens when things start to go south, you just get reckless.
Which is
and I think they got very reckless.
Which is way more frustrating if you're you or Coach Rule, or I think a lot of fans that kind of try and dial in a little bit more, because if you're watching a team, and Coach Rule kind of addressed this yesterday, right? If you're playing a team or you're watching a team and you feel like you're playing your best version of football and they're just better,
you
can live with that.
I can see that.
You can live with that.
I'm fine with that. But
and that's not what happened.
No,
on Saturday.
Some guys need to literally go sit down.
Yeah.
And if you're coaching those guys and you don't make them go sit down, then you should probably go sit down.
That's on you.
So
yeah.
I don't care where you start with the accountability. There's some on Coach Rule. I mean, he's got to hold his staff accountable. His staff has to hold the players accountable. And I think the players holding themselves accountable. It's a lot easier to do when you're having success.
Sure. Yeah.
And the real stuff doesn't really happen until something happens you don't like, and then you have to see the players respond. We went through this internally. I just picked this year. It did not get off to a good start. And amongst our staff, and we had 3 meetings, and then there were a couple more meetings, and a couple of the leaders on the team were like, I think you guys are expecting too much. You need to press pause. And then we were like, you think you guys are entitled.
Which is easy to happen.
You haven't done anything yet.
Yeah.
So there was this back and forth for the first month of the season. Literally.
Yeah.
To rechange unity count. It was hard.
Yeah.
And that's why you didn't look very good.
I saw you guys in the first month of the season. I've seen you last week. It looked a lot different.
It didn't look very good,
Yeah.
right? So, but you have to face some real hard truths. Like, hey man, you got to coach better, or hey, this is the hand we're dealt. You got to, and you have to say that and not have your feelings hurt, and move on if you're for the greater good. So, you don't really get the player stuff until you see it happen amongst the staff and then staff to players. So that the players thing is the last one. But I watched this thing again, and there's a couple things that are concerning. Number one, when it went south, it like all the way went south. Like you lost your fundamentals.
Off the rails.
Like if you're an alley runner defensively, be the alley runner. If you're supposed to be in the crease, be the crease. Double fits. Early on I said something to Sharpie, and I were going back and forth during the broadcast, and I said, you have to trust this scheme right now because you have a couple guys coming free. They're not making the play.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you can't. I said, just don't panic. Right. And Sharp's trying to, of course, talk me off the ledge because it's increasingly frustrating.
Yeah, sure.
But it's still in the second quarter when it's 14-7, I still think you
still got a shot.
You still have a shot. Right. Then Nebraska turns the ball over. Well, they turn the ball over earlier. Then you drive right back down and you have a penalty because there's a couple of secrets out there that you have to be willing to talk about. Because I can say all the things I want to about accountability and emotional toughness, and a loser mentality, and well, don't read about a loser mentality. Okay, well, don't write about a loser mentality, or here we go. You can say all that, and a couple things can be true at once. Because some people will look at the here we go again and they'll say, I think it's kind of a crutch. I think it's kind of a cop out.
And I do think there's loser mentality.
But I think he's owning the fact that it's hard to admit out loud that background noise is working.
Yeah.
So I think
it's getting to you.
I think he's admitting that the background noise gets to this program. He's thought that from day one.
Yeah.
He's just trying to build it from within with culture and character where it doesn't matter. But so that part I think is true. And I don't think he's playing the blame game. That's not how I read it, but I do know his personality.
And it's really hard to insulate your program from it without it turning into a bow thing.
Yeah, because that's not what you want.
Right.
Okay, so
that's hard.
So that part can be true to some degree for them. That is their truth.
Yeah.
And I believe that to be the case. Right? There's some truth there. But the other part is, I got to go back to the accountability thing. What can we do differently? If I'm the head coach and I want to run the ball, and I say we want to wear teams down in the fourth quarter, then you have to hold that to the candle, to the flame, and say we're going to run the ball.
And you're talking about with your OC?
I'm talking about
or with everybody.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say don't do that because this is what fans like to do.
Sure.
Okay. Coaches aren't afforded the same luxury as fans. You can't. We've seen a couple of other people fire people mid-season. You still have some goals in front of you.
No, I mean hold them accountable.
Hang on, just let me finish.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So I don't care what the position group is. I'm using run the ball because it's easy to see. And we've come to this conclusion now that we're not very good up front. And I'm telling you, sure as I'm sitting here, you are good enough. If you can pass protect, you can run the ball. Listen, if you can pass protect, which is significantly more difficult,
and they're good at,
you can run the ball. So then you have to get into why can't we run the ball? That's for him and his staff. So whether it's your OC or your running backs coach or your wide receiver coach or your O-line coach, you have to make that come to fruition. Okay, I use as an example to say you're disjointed, and it's been allowed to be disjointed, and I'm not sure why. I don't know, right? I haven't been to practice in I don't know how long, so I don't see habits. I don't know who's going to meetings, who's not going to meetings. I don't know who's needs to come to meetings. I don't know. So I don't know any of that. I just know it is very disjointed. You said yesterday during the press conference that perimeter blocking has been an issue all year long.
Mhm.
Okay. I think everybody agrees with you.
No doubt.
Now what?
Yeah.
Now what? I don't care. Like
what's accountability look like in that situation?
so that may mean not playing some guys
that are better as pass catchers.
Yeah.
Right?
These are so they're not hypotheticals, but they're hypotheticals.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. The hypothetical is maybe it's a different guy that's good at one thing than not the other. That part I
skill
don't know.
sets are different. Right?
I just know that if you tell me something has been a problem for a long time, then okay, you have to address it, whether it's with personnel change or teaching change or fundamental, because you're in the season now.
Yeah.
And it is what it is from an optic standpoint. Now, you can change whatever you want to behind the scenes, whether it's whose responsibility is it. You have 1,000 coaches. Maybe you divvy up duties. Maybe you change them. I don't know. So I'm not speaking to the micro. I'm talking about the macro. So while the thing about the emotion and the negativity can be a thing, there's still the part that you have to be able to control.
Yeah, there's concrete things still, right?
So you're penalized. You're averaging 7.57 penalties a game. That's more than a year ago.
It's too many.
Okay. So then I asked myself, okay, what kind of penalties and why? Now, you went through a stretch where you were getting a fair amount of defensive penalties. And I think that was driven by this is just all this is just me thinking and talking, right? This is what happens when I get time by myself. There was this rash there was this stretch defensively where we kind of had some questions, but we didn't know why we had questions. And the easy thing was to talk about tackling, and because we hear Coach Rule talk about tackling, he doesn't get into specifics of why, right? Where I talk about leverage or trusting the guy next to you, or if this is an A gap fitter and I have B gap, get your ass in the B gap. If I'm a C gap run fitter and I get to play over the top, and I'm a crease guy, which means I'm fitting between C gap and the flat defender, get your ass down into the box. Okay, limit the space. Don't give guys two-way goes. All that can be a thing, and I could still say in the summer, gosh, you know what's going to be interesting to me if this doesn't go the way that I want it to? How will guys that aren't accustomed to having success handle success, and then when you don't have success? Because there's still that mentality. So I know that's out there. That's why when he says what he says yesterday, I don't look at it as a cop-out. He just said the quiet part out loud. He's being 100% transparent there, and I'm not going to bury him for that. The part that I think we have to really address is the second part that he's talking about, and that's everybody. So I look at these penalties defensively. There was this stretch where it was so ingrained. Hey, we want takeaways. We want takeaways. We want takeaways. We want takeaways. Kind of got away from the fundamentals a little bit about securing, then stripping, or making sure, like just the fundamentals of taking the ball away. Then they kind of get back into it. Not as much hero ball. You don't see a 15-yarder for a guy stripping at the ball when a guy's on the way down and he like rakes across his face or something like that. But then offensively, you start to see the penalties creep back just a smidge. Why? Well, could be a couple of reasons, but let's say, for instance, it's like, well, we're doing too much. Guys are unsure. Because typically that's when you commit penalties. Occasionally it will be because this guy is such a good speed rusher.
You just got to hold on.
I just got to hold on.
Yeah.
But the block in the backs,
especially offensively, right?
The pushing in the back, that's just fundamentals.
Yeah.
Right?
We've seen a lot of those.
If you know that if I'm going to perimeter block, I'm just giving specific examples for like a big picture, because some people need specific examples. If I'm Jamal Banks and I have my third or fourth or fifth blocking in the back penalty, what am I doing differently? Are we addressing that? And if I keep repeating it, stop putting me out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that is a solution if you want it to be. I'm not picking on Banks. I'm just telling you what it is.
Yeah.
Because the head coach gave us the freedom to talk about perimeter blocking. So I'm using perimeter blocking. So I get back into some of these other penalties. Well, a lot of personnel packages. One time we didn't line up right. Well, okay, pre-snap procedure penalty. Do you know how to line up? Is this something new?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not, what are the how does that happen? So you have to say, hey, listen, how do we have 5 in the backfield? Right? Do we not know?
Mm-hmm.
Are we unsure? Because I look at the teams that aren't penalized a ton, and I went back. I should have wrote it down, but I probably. So I looked at the teams that aren't penalized a ton, and I want you to tell me what their offenses have in common.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
I'm going to give you just the top 10
Okay.
of least penalized teams. Iowa, Iowa State, Okie State, Air Force, Army, Rutgers, Western Michigan, BYU, Wisconsin, Cincinnati.
I would say.
When you think of their offenses, what do you think?
I think they know exactly what they're trying to do.
Bingo. It's not coincidence.
No, because there's just some different types of offenses in there,
But they do the same thing.
but they all know exactly what they're trying to do.
It's not coincidence.
Yeah.
I talked yesterday about Indiana. Like, it just seems like they mastered their craft, right? An inside threat, a vertical conflict, and a perimeter threat on offense. Didn't matter who they put in there. Do you know how a backup quarterback can come in and look functional? He does.
When you know exactly what you're doing on offense.
When you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things matter.
Mm-hmm.
So while one thing can be true over here, the new thing is what we talked about yesterday morning is the critical decisions aren't necessarily at this juncture with staff per se, like we want our pound of flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, get rid of this guy, or this guy's not this. Okay, that's fine. Coaches aren't afforded that luxury.
Yeah.
Not real time. You can be like Oklahoma or who else fired their OC?
Utah resigned.
Okay.
Or fired, resigned, whatever.
Okay, Utah season swirling like a toilet bowl,
Yeah.
right? Oklahoma, huge trouble.
Mm-hmm.
The conflict, the emotional conflict that Nebraska has that makes them different, because what fans will say is, oh, get rid of this or do this. What coaches will say is, okay, this is my teaching philosophy. This is what we've talked about. This is the culture we've built. We built a no panic, a hang in there, a stay the course. This is the kind of culture we built. Will the byproducts of my actions reflect what I'm saying?
And
that's the question that a coach has to ask real time in season. So you're 5-2. People think you're on the heels of 5-3. Okay. Oh man, I'm gonna go to Columbus and we're gonna be 5-3, and the points are a gift. And I for whatever the reason, people like tweeting at me that it's free money on the point spread, as if I'm a faint. Anyway, I'm not even gonna get into that. Right?
Yeah.
Social media is what it is. But what I'm saying to myself is, you still at this particular juncture have to say, okay, 5-3. What can we still accomplish versus the opponents that's left out there? And will my decisions that I make in the short term, how do they fit in with my long-term thought process for this season? That, whatever those answers are, typically guide your decisions.
Or they should.
I think they will.
Yeah. With this staff, I think they will.
I think they will. So I don't know how fine a line it is between knee-jerk and not, but I will tell you, those are all the things that you have to think about when we're busy picking apart a press conference.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the 5-2, because I think that's an inherent part of the conflict if you're a coaching staff as well, right? Because you can not like the way something worked and still look at it and go, hey, everything we want or everything we thought was possible this season still in front of us, right? Even let's assume, I'm sure they're not thinking this way, but as a fan base, as media, let's just assume, okay, they're going to lose to Ohio State, whatever, it's 5-3. Still 4 games left at that point. Do any of those 4 teams scare you?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you.
No.
No. if you're the coaching staff, I'm guessing none of the teams scare you, including Ohio State. But you look at those last 4 games, you go, those are games that we should be competitive in with each of those 4 teams.
Yeah.
Right?
I think they think that.
I think they think that against Ohio State, too. But I'm certain they feel it about the last 4 games of the season. So you look at it and you go, okay, does firing my OC in season make it more or less likely?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Right. So even yesterday when I talked about this, and there's this fine line between, because I hear this. Well, such and such isn't playing well. Just go young.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I get it.
And there's certain spots that might be true.
Right. But the thing you have to ask yourself as a coach and a staff is at what cost?
Yeah. Right.
At what cost?
Because you know how important it is to get to a bowl this year.
Yeah.
You know how important it is even to get to like 7, I think is even like, you know how important that is, right?
So that's what I was saying yesterday is on the table without saying those specifics are on the table.
I mean, they wouldn't put numbers on it, but I will, right? Because I have the luxury to do that.
Yeah.
Right. You know, between 6 and 8 wins is important and on the table.
Okay. So let's finish with the we'll take a break. Because we have to be able to stomach the things that we can't stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't like negative sentiment and folks being kind of down on the program and you want your team to toughen up, you better start with being able to coach your best players hard and season them up a little bit. Because that has to start to happen.
Let's get back into that because that's an interesting point. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla will set up the show next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Coming up on the show today, we've got Paul Keels of the Ohio State Radio Network. They've obviously got that game with Nebraska this week coming up at 8:45. We've got Patrick Erb. He's a sideline reporter for Wisconsin. They've got a big one this weekend as well. 9 o'clock, Mike Schaefer of Husker 24/7. And at 9:45, we'll talk to Robert Rosenthal of IlliniBoard.com. Illinois, still pretty good at football.
A mini version of the Big Ten whip.
Yeah, a little mini Big Ten.
So even in that clip,
mm-hmm.
So we said, hey, we could have got it out there on the bubble. Okay, we didn't. Okay, whatever. See, that presser is not the time and the place to get into the play design, because that's not really.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's really for us. Like on that level, I wouldn't get in the habit of talking super intricacies of football.
Real quick on that. Is play design something that's feasible to change in season?
Play design. So you mean like design something? Do you mean like design power a different way?
Like like on that bubble screen, right? Like
hey, throw the ball.
Okay, fair. Yeah,
throw the ball.
So that's like an execution.
Yeah,
okay.
That's execution, right? We walk through Fedoni turning in versus turning out.
Mm-hmm.
What we should have said was that ball shouldn't go there.
Okay.
That ball should have gone to the number 2 along the hash, the number 2 receiver that was wide open.
The guy on the 6-yard out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wide open.
Yeah.
Right? The safety right before pre-snap, go back and watch it. He bails like he's going to get over the top of one. They're going to low hole, high hole. They did it right at the snap. The problem is Dylan only looked left, right? That ball was going to Fedoni come heck or high water.
Yeah.
Okay? That's just that's part of the growing pains.
Yeah, it's a
freshman thing.
Yeah.
Great player, but you have to use that as a moment. Does he already know that, or do you not want to say that out loud? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know one thing. If you say that out loud and you can coach your best players through the media, it will resonate
with everybody.
with everybody in that locker room.
So let me ask something.
So I would use that. And sometimes, like, I've done this, and I hate saying this out. I'm not going to say. So I remember one time, it's actually Coach Martin that did it. And just clearly jumped the guy. He's our best player at the time. Just dressed him up and down over how he came out to practice, and he had on just a girdle, shoulder pads, and a helmet. And afterwards, there was this discussion between because I coached him, and he was like, well, I do this, this, and this. And I said, listen, look at it like this. If he can coach you hard, we can coach anybody else. This team right now needs a shot in the arm. I remember Coach Frank one time pulling really good receiver. This was one of my first years there. Grant Guyette to the side. And he talked to Grant about wanting to be a two-way guy and not just focusing on offense. And Grant was our best receiver. When you can say that and other people know that that's your heart, you can hold everybody accountable.
Yeah.
Right? So he and Dylan have a great relationship. You use him. Use and Dylan can take it because he's pretty smart and he's going to be hard on himself.
Yeah.
Right? So just say, listen, his quarterback.
He probably already knows. I mean,
he probably does.
Yeah.
But that's where you have a relationship with your player and you go, hey, you know what? I may say this, but you know what I mean, right?
Right.
And that's between you and he.
Right. Like,
doesn't have to be for everybody else. Because then the receivers, you don't have to worry about them getting in their feelings. Like, well, you called us out. You said we couldn't perimeter block, man. You tell your quarterback to throw us. Like, you don't have to worry about stuff like that. Because let's not act like that doesn't happen on every not
just roster. I mean, go to work, go to school.
Yeah, that's what people do, right?
Like, as soon as you, and here's the thing, right? As soon as you get called out on something, if there's truth to it, you immediately get defensive. That's human nature, right? You brustle up. And then some people take the extra step to be like, okay, why did I bristle up? Why do I feel this way? There's some truth there. And some people just go, bleep that guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It depends on the level of emotional maturity, right?
Yeah.
But I do want to ask you about being able to coach your players hard and your best players hard, especially because I do think it can be awkward sometimes.
Okay, talk to me.
Because, let's go back to the perimeter blocking thing, since that's what Coach Rule specifically brought up as an issue all year long, right? You've got these two guys that are very high-profile transfers, right, in Nair and Banks.
Okay.
That Nebraska's really excited to get. You get them in the door. Like, when you get a high-profile transfer like that, how is it harder? Like, how do you deal with, hey, this is expectations of not only – because you probably are telling them, like, hey, look at our wide receiver room. We need you guys. Like, not promising playing time or anything, but you're having a real conversation with these people.
Are you talking about balancing return on investment versus holding people accountable?
Yeah, I mean, I just expectations almost versus holding people accountable.
Yeah, sometimes those guys got to sit.
Right?
If that's the example you're using, right? You could say to yourself, "Hey, listen,
if they've been bad at this all year, and this is who you want to be,
and they get the bulk of the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
look at the snap count.
Bonner's snaps are way down.
4. He had 4 this week.
You know why I asked you about him yesterday?
Because he should have been playing.
No, not necessarily.
That's how I felt. That's
not necessarily.
Okay.
I looked at it because I keep receipts constantly, right? So early on in the year, I kept hearing, well, why is Bonner out there? Bonner doesn't do this. Bonner doesn't do that. So I don't refute everything, and I don't get
maybe
into
he does.
So I'm like, okay, maybe, I don't love that on the a little bit of a penalty. Okay, I could see that. But now I have to pit it against everybody else that I see in that room.
And against what
so
they
if he earned not playing, there's some other guys in there that have earned not playing.
Absolutely.
Right?
100%.
So that's how it looks to me. So that's why I asked about the snap count, because I wasn't sure, because I didn't remember him seeing. Which is also why I said during the broadcast to Sharpie, I like the little wrinkle of putting Lloyd in the slot.
Yeah.
Because the intermediate passing game was going to be there.
Yeah.
That's why Fedoni could work the middle of the field.
That's why I thought they'd be better
That's why
offensively.
J-Dub could work, or
Yeah.
Jalen could work
Mhm.
the middle of the field. And because that let me know, okay, they're at least tinkering. But some of these other guys, they got to play more. If you don't like what's going on, then
You
they
got to play
got
other guys.
you just do. And sometimes this hurts.
Mhm.
This hurts. And high school coaches know this. When you want to send a message and you know it's your best player, because we don't have near as many good play. It's not like you go 4 deep.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do it just to let folks know.
Yeah, you'll do it to anybody.
It can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And you know you're not very good.
Because
right? It's
because you're sitting there, right? And because here's the problem: is 90%.
And the coaches that are willing to do that, they win more than they lose.
Let's say 80 to 90% of Jamal Banks is better than your next option, right?
Yeah.
But 80 to 90% of Jamal Banks is not maximizing like 100% of Janarin Bonner is. Like at some point,
so now what I have to go
that
back,
matters.
Yeah. So now what I have to go back to do is I just have to look at perimeter blocking all year.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who. Like I don't think I know who.
The only guy I've seen I know has done it consistently well is Bullock. Every time Bullock is out there, it seems like he's getting a good block on the perimeter. Yeah.
If that
he made catches last year. I'm not saying he's as dynamic as these other guys, but he could catch the ball. We saw it last year.
It also may be part of the simplicity thing too. Just do the things you do well,
and
it works for everybody else.
I was gonna ask about identity because
we didn't get to that dirty word yet, have we?
We will, I think, because I think that's a big important part about who's playing and why. We're gonna get to Paul Keels next. Talk about Ohio State. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DBM Ravi, Lulla. We're joined now by Paul Keels of the Ohio State Radio Network. Paul, how are you this morning?
Everything's good. How's it going out there?
There's that voice. We're okay. We're reeling. We couldn't get off the ropes. It took a couple of headshots. We're taking a knee right now, getting that standing 8 count. But how is that different than you think than kind of what you guys went through emotionally, feeling like you could have controlled the end of that game against Oregon to come out with a better outcome than actually what happened? Would you rather take it on the chin like we did or be where you were?
Well, similar but different. One of the things that Ryan Day talked about a lot after that game at Oregon ended was, one of his big slogans has been leave no doubt and don't let a game be decided by one player or one call. And, Ohio State kind of hurt themselves with a turnover, with a lost fumble, a lost possession with an onside kick they didn't get, and then a number of penalties. So, their inability in those areas kind of put it in a position to where the end of the game worked out the way it did. But despite all of that, they had a chance. They just weren't able to execute. They weren't able to get the kind of defensive pressure that they'd gotten in their previous opponents. So, a 1-point loss on the road against what's now the number 1 team in the country, in most cases, it washes a little easier than what Nebraska went through, but it's still surrounding a football program that's got high expectations.
Paul, when you look at the way that game ended and how that result was, and then going directly into a bye week, how do you think that affects the team mentally versus going into the bye week off of a more normal result? Like that's an unusual spot to have a break after.
Yeah, it is, and that's what's kind of crazy about this year and next when you're going to have 2 byes. But it's still burning with them. I mean, we had Coach Day on one of our network radio shows last night. You can tell that it's still chewing at him, but at the same token, he's talked about, and the players have to adapt this too. They've got to move on because really a majority of their goals are still in front of them. The only goal that's not there is an undefeated season. They can still win a Big Ten championship. They can still compete for a national championship if they take care of everything that's in front of them. So it's trying to find the proper perspective, even though you're coming off of a disappointing defeat like that.
Paul, I just getting ready for film study for the broadcast. Watch Ohio State a lot. What are folks saying locally about kind of the cohesiveness, I guess I'll say, on the defensive side of the ball between how Knowles likes to play defensively versus how a guy like Coach Johnson Sr. likes to manipulate that offensive line? It seems like those guys could be a little more dominant and even take it up another level? Is this just simply getting together over time, or is there something there that doesn't allow them to be as efficient sometimes?
Well, I think if you look at the way the defense performed leading up to the Oregon game, you'd have no questions about it. The sack numbers aren't gigantic, but you saw the pressures that they put on. They forced turnovers. They got 2 defensive scores in the very first week of the game, but obviously the competition was at a different level with who they played in their last game. So there's still a feeling that this is a defense that can do what they're expected to do, and that is to limit explosive plays, something that, for the most part, they were able to do last year. That was kind of the concern a couple of 3 years ago when Jim Knowles was brought in. So, when you've got the background that he has, the background that Larry Johnson has, those are 2 coaches that have been doing it very well for a very long period of time. And consider the fact, too, that these players will be motivated knowing that, everybody's talked about how defensively they couldn't get pressure on Oregon's quarterback, how they gave up explosive plays like they had not in the first few games prior to that. So, even with the difficulty they had in Eugene, I think people, if you think about it realistically, understand this is a defense that has shown and they have the ability to play better than they did.
Paul, when you're looking at Jeremiah Smith, obviously Ohio State's had a laundry list of outstanding receivers, some that have played very, very well as freshmen. Where does Jeremiah Smith kind of fall on that spectrum? Because he's been unbelievable.
It's hard to compare because it's been a long time since you've had a true freshman explode on the scene as quickly as he has. Chris Olave really did it after an injury to Austin Mack. We didn't see Marvin Harrison really do it until after Olave and Garrett Wilson had opted out of playing in the Rose Bowl a few years ago. But, the combination of his size, his athleticism, and having a quarterback that has done a pretty good job of putting the ball where he can make plays has really resulted in seeing some spectacular plays. He's kind of setting himself apart, but I think also you have to look at too that he got the opportunity to start and play a lot right out of the get-go that a lot of guys haven't had, but he deserves it.
Paul, when you're taking a look at this offense and kind of where they want to be with all of the weapons, 2 really, really good backs, and they punch, counterpunch, and kind of trade off with their level of effectiveness. What does the offense look like when it's functioning the way that Day and Kelly want it to for the long haul?
It looks like an offense that gives a defense headache about which poison do you want to pick. You think about what Jeremiah Smith has done, throwing in Emeka Ibuka and the other receivers. G. Scott has had a very productive start to the season at tight end, and Will Howard, who brings a great deal of experience and brings a running threat that Ohio State hasn't had since Justin Fields. Now, the question was going into the season, the play of the offensive line, and there's a big question now because of the season-ending injury to Josh Simmons at tackle. But it's an offense when it's clicking and when they're taking care of the football, they've shown the ability to be able to run with those backs that you talked about, but also to be able to stretch the field with deep passes, but also to be able to hit intermediate passes, including a couple of running backs that have shown the ability to catch the ball and do some things out of the backfield.
Paul, obviously, Ohio State's always a program that recruits at a super high level. See Jeremiah Smith as an example there. But they have brought in some super high-profile transfers this year as well, whether it's Will Howard, whether it's Quinshon Judkins, whether it's Caleb Downs. How do you think that Ryan Day has sort of managed, hey, I recruited a super high level, and these guys are guys that expect to play versus we think we can win a national championship here. Let's go get some reinforcements.
And I think you have to throw Seth McLaughlin in there at center, too, the young man they brought in from Alabama. But what's been almost as big as the guys they brought in was the guys that returned, especially you look at the 2 defensive ends, Jalen Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, Denzel Burke, guys that could have left and gone to the NFL but decided to come back and play, and play not only for a national championship, but to try and break that 3-game losing streak against Michigan and win a Big Ten championship. So it's been a combination of recruiting guys that you mentioned coming from other programs with a shot at winning a national title, keeping the players you have, and that's kind of the new reality of college football, maintaining the players and not losing some of your key people to the transfer portal, but also having the bare bones of competing for a conference championship and a national championship and making it appealing to players. And, let's also not hide the fact that NIL has a lot to do with it too, and Ohio State's been able to get the kind of support they've needed in that neighborhood to be able to make it attractive for players to come and players to stay.
Paul, is there something to, like, kind of the understanding that if it has that pro mentality and guys that are commanding NIL dollars get the first look, how important is it that the culture either offsets if they aren't playing well and you have to make different decisions with personnel, or that the guys you bring in are actually going to be who you need them to be?
Well, that's a question I wish there was an easy answer for, because there really isn't. It's, playing time certainly dictates a lot of what happens with guys if they decide to stay, or their guests on playing time if they decide to come. Because, there've been not only Ohio State, but other places where guys have left other schools to go there, and then they've decided to go someplace else. That's why you see in some of these bios guys that, and I know Nebraska has some that have played at more than one or more than two schools. So it certainly has a lot to do with your feeling about the coaching staff, in particular your position coach. It has a feeling about the opportunity to compete for championships, whether it's conference or national championship, and also where can this program get you if you feel like you've got a chance of playing at the next level. And Ohio State certainly has shown that, they can compete to get into the playoffs, to compete for a national championship. They've shown the long-term ability to put guys in the NFL. So it's just a matter of where is the individual fit? Where do the families feel about all of that? Because that's a big part of it, not only just the families, but the people that surround these players. So it's certainly, it's a question, and it's a scenario that all schools and all coaching staffs are having to deal with.
Paul, obviously after Nebraska, you've got a huge one at Penn State. Going to be a top 5 matchup. Any concern about a little bit of a look-ahead game?
No, because what this team did a few weeks ago, they had Iowa the week before they played Oregon, and they really went about defeating Iowa in a very workmanlike manner. So they've shown the ability to not look ahead. They know that Nebraska's got a talented team that can, despite what happened at Indiana last Saturday, but also keep in mind, too, they're trying to get the taste out of their mouth of what happened in their last game against Oregon. So I think that probably goes a long way to not having this team looking ahead. Yeah, that's going to be a big one next week at Penn State, especially if Ohio State is fortunate enough to beat Nebraska. But they also understand, too, that they've got one loss in their ledger. They can't afford a second loss because, while things are still out there for them to achieve their goals right now, another loss takes that out of your hands.
That's Paul Keels. He is the play-by-play voice for Ohio State football. Paul, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, sounds good.
Appreciate
My pleasure.
you.
Great stuff there from Paul Keels of the Ohio State Radio Network. Ohio State, much like you, needs to keep their eyes straight forward and ahead of what's in front of them. That is the driver's job, and make sure you are not getting distracted. That's a message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Coming up next, we've got more college football. We got to get into some NFL. Great weekend there as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where a week from Friday you can join us for another live show prior to the UCLA game. Make sure you get to Eventbrite and search Hurrdat Sports Radio to check that out, sign up, and join us here for that. See our bright and shining faces, not just over the stream, but in person as well. DB, what's up?
No, go ahead. I listened to that clip, so I'm in thought. I listened to that clip again.
Yeah.
Did it? Be honest.
Yeah.
No, I may want to punch in the face depending on your response, but
that's not
the first. Yeah. Okay. Did you hear an excuse in there?
No.
Me neither. And I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I'm trying to get what people got out of this yesterday when they wanted to be critical.
Yeah, I didn't get an excuse out of that.
Okay. Because this is what I heard. Hey, people will say these things about you. This is kind of the narrative that's been here. That's life. That's what you get when you come here. Did you hear that part?
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Which is all accurate, by the way.
Yeah. So that's
it's accurate.
So that's my part in the first segment.
Yeah.
That can be true.
And he specifically said, I'm not blaming anyone.
That's
can part of
be
playing
true,
at Nebraska.
Right?
Yeah.
That can be their truth. But then there's this other part which is what led me to believe I need to go back and watch what I'm watching, get inside the penalties, try to get inside the perimeter blocking. That's because the second time around, I'm even more fired up than I was in the first segment because I don't know how people, and maybe I'm guilty of it too.
Okay.
Maybe I'm guilty of, and I know the empty can rattles the loudest.
Yep.
And a coaching or a managerial or a problem-solving perspective is not the same as a fan base.
Mhm.
But as I said yesterday, I don't want to trade the fan base because I like energy. And part of being good at something over time is the ability to endure. So sometimes you have to get the muck to get the good stuff too. You can't just get the praise of the fan base and being able to grocery store or having people want to go pay for a meal. And I'm talking about me personally.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Or having people come want you to speak or whatever
Yeah.
and be compensated for it and not have to deal with
the other stuff.
the other stuff.
Well, what do you always say? You don't get this life without me in it, right?
Right.
You don't get the positives of the Nebraska fan base.
I don't say that. DJ told me that.
Well, you say it all the time now.
Because I think it's hilarious.
One, it's true, right?
It's very true.
You don't get the 400 sellouts in a row. You don't get the fact that this athletic department is in an incredible shape financially. You don't get the fact that you have the NIL money you need.
And I'm not saying that doesn't give
you a blank check to.
Yeah, that doesn't make the knee jerk ridiculous comments any more true.
No.
It just makes them knee jerk and ridiculous.
But
I said this yesterday, Ravi. The fans are absolutely right that the score matters.
Mm-hmm.
But there also is this segment where people were mad at Will Compton. And it wasn't because he was in Tennessee and Tennessee gear. It was because he was like, hey, on the rewatch, like there's some gap integrity things and this that I kind of see. And I'm in my head, I'm like, he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you watch this to want to fix something, it's like, okay, what's a coach or a CEO or a player going to do? I'm not going to say a good player.
Mm-hmm.
A player that is for the team is going to say, okay, what could I do differently?
Yeah.
What role did I play?
Go be in the B gap.
Yeah,
you're supposed to
get your ass in the B gap. what Coach Rule said. Although
I do think though.
So, but that doesn't make the fan base wrong.
No.
That hey man, we got to be 56-7. This is embarrassing. That hurt. Like that, it can still be a thing. Coaches just aren't afforded the luxury to be emotional.
At the same time, I agree. We would feel differently if it was 35-7 versus 56-7.
I don't know, man.
I think in general, as a fan, like the royal we, I think we would feel differently. I don't think we'd feel great, but we would feel differently. But Coach Rule talked about this yesterday too. Is there was just no point in which he was ready to wave the white flag and just say, hey, like let's just. I mean, he said this is the exact line. He said, if you're gonna lose, how do you want to lose? He wanted to lose swinging.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if you're swinging, what do we know about boxing? When you throw punches, you open yourself up to get punched back.
And in real time, I said this yesterday, but this is the other part of the story. When Sharpie and I are talking through the broadcast, and he's just a gentle spirit, right? And so even when he's talking, it's with this tone of like great care and concern.
Yeah. He's very empathetic,
right? And me as another empath, I feel what I felt when I've been in those positions before.
Sure.
So when he asked me the differing opinions, because he represents, I think Sharpie represented what a lot of the fan base was feeling. Hey man, let's get out of here. What do we think about getting some young guys some playing time?
Sure.
And my aggressive butt, I'm like, nah. Like we need to know how this feels, right?
Also,
so there's this varying degree of, and neither one's right or wrong. It's just that's where these worlds are colliding in the outcome of the score.
Well, and I
right?
I'm 100%. And I'm sitting there thinking, and
because when you say 35-7 would have felt better, no, it wouldn't have. Not for me.
I think to a lot of the fan base.
Yeah, no, but I'm just giving. Yeah, I'm like,
because I sit here and I go, at what point did you think the game was over? Where you're like, Nebraska's not coming back.
So this was the first time in a long time B-Mac and I did not talk a ton during half. He kind of sat there. I kind of sat there. I was afraid I was going to fall. That's the only place I've ever been where you had as likely a chance to fall up the stairs as down.
Okay.
So I was just worried about, and it was like 927,000 degrees in there because it's all glass. It's super old and the sun is right in front of us. So I didn't want to sit still.
Yeah.
Like I went out in the regular press box. Like he and I did not converse at all. And I talked to Foreman upstairs. And when I came back down, I thought to myself, I'm trying to remember real time. I said, okay, you get the ball, get points out of this drive.
Coming out of half.
So I don't think I felt like it was over at the half.
I didn't either. I didn't think it was over until, what was it, the pick six right after or in the.
So did that make it 30? It could have made it 28-14. Instead, it went 35-7.
That's when I felt like.
Yeah. Yep.
So here's why I asked.
Yeah,
right?
I will agree with that. I just tried to process it real time.
Here's why I asked. Because when he says that, I'm going to get a little weird on here. When he says, if you're going to lose, how do you want to lose, right? I think there's a lot of fans that say like, hey, just don't embarrass us, right? We don't want to be embarrassed. My question is like, what is more embarrassing? Because I also remember this fan base when Bill Callahan took a team to USC, and it seemed like his only goal was not to get blown out.
Yeah.
And I know the fans were embarrassed by that. They were embarrassed by the fact that Nebraska didn't feel like they could even take a swing against USC.
What was that final? I was like I should
21-7 or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Like it was a reasonable score, but Nebraska was never going to win that game.
Okay.
Right?
I remember now. I don't remember the score.
I don't either off the top of my head. I think it was somewhere in that neighborhood. But I remember exactly how that game played out in the narrative after that game. And there's this is the part where I'm going to get weirder. There's this movie from like the 60s where it's called The Lion in Winter, where there's these two guys that are about to get executed. And one of them, they're asked to like beg for their life before they get executed. It's like it's a medieval movie or whatever, right? And one guy asks the other one, what do you like? Why won't you beg for your life? What does it matter how a man falls down? And the guy responds, when the fall is all that's left, it matters a great deal. And that's how I felt about what Coach Rule was saying yesterday.
Yeah, read Heath's comment.
Heath on the YouTube?
Yeah. I wonder if this is why we got the feedback, or I got the feedback I did yesterday about them not loving the press conference. Because the press conference didn't bother me.
It didn't bother me either. He says it's not the same as a close loss. I went back and watched the Illinois press conference, and he had the same fire under him still, instilled some confidence we would bounce back. This didn't feel similar. Now, I have heard that people wanted him to be like more angry at the press conference.
Yesterday?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah, yesterday specifically.
Because I felt so, man, this is interesting. And he's usually pretty smart. So it's got my attention. Okay. So is the response we got from yesterday's presser and why it's so different, we wanted our feelings validated in his presser.
100%. We wanted him to be as mad as we were.
Okay.
I think.
I'm paying, because I always wonder what the goddamn disconnect is.
So generally,
right? So, everybody has all these hot takes. Oh, we need to do this, and he should have never been. And it's like, you know what? You're afforded a different vantage point. And I'm not saying you're not wrong. It's just not practical
for his
vantage point.
Right. Because he's still got to go play Ohio State this week.
It's not.
And that started immediately after that game was over, right? So I sit here and I understand.
I think that's the frustrating part for me.
Sure.
It's not practical, but it doesn't
not
make
for him.
That's what I was saying about the Will Compton thing.
Yeah.
Like he's right. Like, there is some gap integrity things, and there were some things that I think Nebraska could have done differently. That I don't know if it changes the outcome, but then I flip back into, okay, well, fans aren't wrong in wanting that game to have been closer.
Yeah.
And I don't want to legislate how reactionary we should be.
Yeah, how people
like
feel.
I try, just don't. We can't have the same conversation until you calm down.
Right. 100%.
Right? Like we can't get
Until
into
you
the
can-
solutions thing until you don't have to have.
And
That's why I don't understand. There's this weird thing, and where we want like the media to validate the way we feel through how we treat the coach.
Yeah. Like
I'm gonna say that again.
No, I agree.
Right? We like want we want us to validate how we feel through. That's not his job.
It's also not the media's job. It's not the coach's job. It's not the media's job.
Right? It's not about validating how we feel. It's not.
But here's why we want that. Because we don't totally have a good grasp on why we feel the way we do.
No, I think we do though.
Do you? Because
Yeah.
I don't.
I think. Well, I mean, is that somebody that's upset? I think they want him to play better.
Sure.
Right?
But that's I don't think that's specific enough. Because
that's hard to legislate.
That's fine, but here's what I've seen. Here's what I've seen from not just the fan base, not just, and I think this is happening with the players too.
Because you know where this emotion is stemming from?
Where's that?
Navigating the negative space. That's bothering me.
So
because I didn't hear that he was making it. I did not hear that he was making an excuse because of the negativity. He wants him to fight.
Yes. Here's where I think there's some irrationality, and I'm not even like, you have the right to be irrational as a fan. That's fine. I think this is why there's some irrationality or some disconnect between the way the fans feel, what they heard from Rule, and the reason I sometimes don't understand the places that the fandom goes, right? I feel like we need to learn how to deal with failure. Not accept failure, right? But we need to learn how to deal with failure. And I think that's not just fans. I think that's across the board. I think the players need to learn how to deal with failure in a positive way. Because the here we go again mentality, that creeps in because you haven't learned how to deal with failure.
Okay. Are you talking, this is the player's perspective?
I'm talking everybody. I think across the state, across everybody that touches the program, I don't think we're good at dealing with.
My bad, go. Keep going.
I don't think we're good at dealing with failure. And let me tell you this, and I believe this to as much as I believe anything, as much as I believe the accountability stuff, as much as I believe anything. Until we learn how to deal with failure as players, as coaches, as fans, as media.
What does deal with it mean?
We can get there. No amount of success will ever be enough. That's a fact. Until we learn how to emotionally regulate through failure and be in the solutions business and not in the excuses business. Be in the solutions business and not in the emotions business. What did Coach Rule tell us at Big Ten Media Days? You want to have emotions. You don't want to be emotional, right? Being emotional affects your actions. Having emotions is being a human, right? We allow failure to take us from emotions to emotional. And the players did it too, because we heard them say it. We heard Jamari say it. We heard Coach Rule say it. So it's not just a fans thing. And I don't know how intertwined those two are. But I think there is an epidemic across this program.
But it is legit to say, for Coach Rule to say, I didn't feel that coaching.
100%. Because he's learned to deal with failure. And
it doesn't, he's not afforded the same luxury to look at it from a player perspective real time.
For sure. 100%. I don't think.
So why do we get our popcorn ready waiting for disaster because a player said something that seemed to contradict the coach?
I don't know, because they're in different positions, so they may not feel the same way about what happened. Right? It makes sense to me that Jamari Butler processed things differently than Coach Rule did. I also think it's possible that Coach Rule thought they were past this with some of these guys.
Where they're
found out real time that they aren't.
Yeah. I'm listening.
That would explain a disconnect as well, right?
That's legit. Yeah.
Like if you're Coach Rule and you're like, hey, we've had a lot of progress. We've had early success. We're 5-1 going into this game. We've overcome we overcame the Colorado thing from losing last year, and then
what if he would have said, okay, because you'll get this pushback, right? It's hey, we saw this coming. We should have seen this coming, and it's like, okay, yep, we're still poor on special teams. He acknowledged that we're still poor with perimeter blocking. So therefore 56-7 is like cool?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so what if Coach Rule would have said, hey, we're 5-1, we still have some warts, we're fortunate to be 5-1, let's move on. Oh wait, he did say that.
But here's what we hear, right? We don't hear that. What we hear is him say, this is a good football team. What we hear him say is...
Oh, yeah, because that's when you and Lance got into it.
Yeah.
Over the good football. Yeah, because I don't think but he did say that they were a good football team.
Yeah, he said it a lot. He said it multiple times. And I think he believes that. I think he believes this can be and has been a good football team. I look at the way Colorado's season played out. You can't convince me that that's not an incredible performance by Nebraska, not just opponent dependent. That's a really good win, and they bashed their head in, right? That's a really, really good win. You can't tell me that Illinois isn't a really good football team. I'm not buying it. I think they're really good. I still think there's a chance they're as good, if not a little better than Indiana. I don't know. I'm not as convinced as I was on Friday, but I think they're at the very least in the same neighborhood. You can't tell me this team isn't capable of playing good football. When we hear this is a good football team, I think we hear this is a completed football team, and that's not what he's saying. I don't think he's saying this team is done. We're good here. We're just going to win the rest of the way out. Or maybe we'll lose to Ohio State or whatever, right? That's not what he's saying, I don't think. I think he's saying, hey, this team has made a lot of progress. This team is going to be better than we were last year, and I think we're very capable of playing good football. He said it a million times, right? We're playing good football. We need to go play championship football.
Because hearing that, and I blame this whole segment on Shane.
Thanks a lot, Shane.
Since we're just in the lack of accountability across the board. Because I listened to that slower in a better state of mind, and I'm even more convinced he was not using that as some excuse.
No, I don't either. I didn't hear an excuse in there. I didn't.
And I've said this before.
And
right?
I'm super sensitive to people making excuses because it bothers me so much.
But I've always said this, though. The difference between an excuse and an explanation is accountability.
Right.
I heard it.
And I believe Coach Rule,
he just simply made a statement.
Yeah.
And I think I said this in the first segment. I think two things can be true at once, right? I think that this thing that we're talking about with this negative malaise and the media interaction and the back and forth, that can be a thing. It's always going to be a thing.
100%.
Hey, ask him hard questions. Validate my feelings. Hold his feet to the fire. Oh, you're too soft. You guys stuck your head in the sand when they were 5-1 like they were a good football team. Because human nature says it has to be either a 1 or a 10. Because people don't nitpick along the way every chance they get doesn't mean they're okay with what's going on. That's number one. You have to acknowledge that. Hey, just because we don't harp on, I'm not saying me and you, I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
Because we don't harp on perimeter blocking or lack of creativity in the run game or all these bad specialty, all these things that we keep hearing that to some degree are true. They are extremely true. I do think there's this mythical wall between focusing on what you can do well versus going to work and working on the negatives. This is like an age-old world problem, right? Like, am I mired by what I can't do, or do I try to mitigate that as best I can while I'm accentuating my strengths? Well, like, what do Fortune 500 companies tell you about the people that they hire?
What?
They work on accentuating the strengths.
Yeah.
I just don't know if what ails is so glaring, you can't overcome it. That's where coaching matters. That's where he's got to be that guy.
You know, the other side of the coin is true as well. Just because you're anxious or have anxiety or nitpicks about something along the way doesn't mean you were right when it finally goes wrong. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. DB.
What up?
Did you get your shot yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm tender.
I am a little bit too. Your girl Sky was back, though.
Oh, I know. She let me know.
Did she tell you that the people have been coming in and telling her that?
Like using my exact quotes. She's like, well, I'm glad you tell everybody I don't miss and that I'm funny. I was like, wow.
People are paying attention.
Free me.
We like it.
Yeah, my bone is this is going to sound stupid, but it's a little tender.
It is a little tender.
So I'm going to say this. I probably should. God dang it. Freaking Chris is like, please, DB, please. All right, Chris, I'm going to. So I go, it just seemed like it was a little longer shot.
Oh, like there was it took longer to inject?
I go, hey.
Yeah.
Are you doing the B12 too in there? Or like, is there more than last week? And she goes, no. If you'd unclench your butt, it wouldn't take so long. I was like, I'm leaving.
I mean, she's right, though.
How do you know? You weren't in there.
No. Because I've been giving myself shots for 30 years. If you tense the muscle, it's harder to inject the liquid.
She said unclench. And she's clearly behind me. I look back over. I'm like, all right, knock it off. Knock it off over back there.
But she can't. It's taking too long. You're clenching your butt.
Man, just will say whatever.
You got to stay loose, man. You got to stay loose. You got to stay loose.
I said, oh, man, you're giving me my shot today. She was like, what did you expect, Chris? Well, where's my man, Chris?
And she asked me, too. She goes, hey, which side you get in last week? I was like, I don't know. I'm not like keeping tally on which side you get it in.
I don't know either.
Because I think apparently you're supposed to alternate. These are things they tell you.
I think I did alternate.
Yeah.
Because Chris I just remember I wanted to rub his shoulder. And it was my left hand. So it was my left tuchus 2 weeks ago.
How you been feeling, though?
I'm cool.
You feeling good?
Yeah, like I think what they tell me, like maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah, like 3-4 weeks sometimes.
Plus, my number was low.
My number was also low.
Do you feel good?
I feel better. Yeah, I do. I played.
I wish they could fix my
rib cage. Well, that's a different deal. That's just...
Dude, I coughed. I felt like I snapped my sternum this morning. You ever had a cough sneak up on you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I thought
I've pulled a rib muscle before.
Yeah,
it's doing that.
It's tender.
So yeah, no, I've been feeling good
she
though.
Said I'm like,
hey, yeah, unclench, man.
Hey, but I know right where it went because
you still feel a little
tender.
Yeah, you stay loose. It doesn't stay sore as long.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's all right. We're gonna try out the B12 later though.
There's a joke in there, and I'm not saying it because this time around I like my job.
Nah, DB, you just gotta relax.
No, man.
Just gotta relax.
She is hilarious.
No, it's if you want to go check them out, get to GameDayMen'sHealth.com/Southwest-Omaha and get an appointment going. You can.
I don't get my next panel for like 6 weeks or now 4 more weeks.
Yeah, they'll redo your blood in 6 weeks and everything. But yeah, they keep a good eye on you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, and they checked our PSA and everything too, make sure we're all square there, which is good. Well, you got to, man.
Yeah.
It's not just about testosterone. You got to stay healthy.
No, I feel good. I
appreciate that.
Cool.
Let's get into a little bit of NFL here because there's
those sweet Arizona black uniforms.
Well, I do actually like. I'm a big fan of black uniforms.
That was a good uniform game last night. Terrible game.
Yes,
a good uniform game.
That was a rock fight.
Yeah, not good.
Speaking of being injured, though, I'm about ready to write my 49ers off.
Yeah.
I think I'm done.
So at what point I felt like they were a couple of plays away from being right there.
Yeah, they were. But that's been all year.
Especially when it was 14-10. Was it 14-10? And then you get
the Brock Purdy pick.
You get the turnover.
Yeah, well, that sounds familiar.
Dude, I can't believe how Mahomes can scramble.
Dude, what I text you real time.
Every game.
We talk about this all the time. There's 2 runs a game.
Yeah.
There's like 2 scrambles a game where Mahomes just breaks you in half.
And it's a spirit killer too.
Yes. It's not just the first down. It's so demoralizing.
Yeah, it's a spirit.
Because you're like, oh man, we got 3rd down. It's 3rd and long. We are matched up well. This guy can't find anywhere open. We've contained him well, and then just bloop right out the back end for a 25-yard gain, and that's the ball game.
And the pick where the pass sailed.
Yeah.
Along the sidelines, like he was open.
Yeah, he was.
So I don't know if it's as far away as, but I don't know who you're dressing either. So
well, that's the problem, right? Is they're a few plays away, and all the guys that make those plays are hurt, right? Debo's got pneumonia of all things. Okay. Ayuk's out for the season. I don't think McCaffrey's playing this year. I just don't believe it. I don't think it's happening.
This is what they have to play for.
Right, yeah, because by the time, 2-3 weeks from now?
Were you surprised, Hawk Tua? I guessed week 8.
I'm not surprised. I am disappointed.
You don't want him to play?
No.
I didn't love what he said.
That's the part that...
But it's not for me.
It's not.
It's not. It's not
his
for
life.
me.
It's his life. I get it.
The just the parallels of like driving to work. I was like, yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's a little different, bud.
But I didn't know whether to be. But if someone of faith, though, I see that perspective from him. I do. Not his fleshy decision to make. So I'm sure he feels good about the direction. I'm just telling you, it's not like you don't know.
No, I know.
That's how
I know.
devout believers think.
Yes, and I often disagree with that reasoning to explain certain things, and this is one of those things.
Yeah, but
because I think this is his decision to make.
Well, you just went through this with fans, and you said just the opposite.
I mean, this is Tua's decision to make.
Well, so I don't know.
I do struggle with it because I understand. Like, there's one.
Are you struggling with it because you could see the ramifications of his decision if it doesn't go well?
But I'm struggling with it for that side because if this doesn't go well, it goes really, really bad. Like, that's very much on the table for Tua. On the other, and we've seen it go really, really bad for guys, right? Maybe it's not next year, but 10 years removed from his career, however long, we've seen this go really, really bad for guys. On the other hand,
Dave Duerson,
pick a name, right? Like
Mike Webster.
It's a long list, right? On the other hand, I understand working your entire life for something and having it right in front of you and feeling fine and thinking you should be able to do it still.
I wonder how much it has to do with the fact that division is so gettable.
Right? He probably thinks to be like, that's still right in front of us. The Bills don't look great.
So if they were 1-something and
it's 1-6, whatever the number is,
he'd sit? I don't know.
I don't think he would.
I don't think he would either.
I don't think he would.
So how much
and that
more
may
enticing is it?
It's more enticing for him that they still have a shot.
Maybe
sure.
I wonder what, because he has the best stocks.
Sure.
And he gets neutral third parties too.
He does. We also know how this goes. Like, we know how multiple head injuries goes because I know the doctor can tell him, hey, like, yeah, technically you're fine. If you get another one, though, you're going to be in trouble. Like, there's very little.
Lot of research out there.
Yeah, and all the research says the more this happens, the worse it gets. Yeah. All of it, right? There's no counter study that says, hey, actually, one more head, like, once you get like 4, the 5th one doesn't matter.
Not as reversible.
Yeah, like, that's not a thing. That none of the research points to that. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not Tua. I get that. I just, when he goes, I felt fine the day after the game. Mm-hmm. That, to me, almost makes me feel like he doesn't get it. Like, he doesn't get the ramifications of his own decision.
I'm not qualified.
I'm not either, but that's how his quote came off to me.
Let me ask you something about. Remember what I said? Who did I tell you I thought the best team in the NFL was 3 weeks ago?
Ravens?
Yeah.
Yeah, they look pretty good still.
Are they the best team in the league?
I'm not going to fight you on it. I'm really not.
So Mike has said something last night that interested me that I had to really give pause to, and that's unfortunate because I don't enjoy talking to him. But he said, "Yeah, but what about that defense? I mean, what are you going to do about that defense?" And I said, first of all, we aren't going to do anything because I hate the Ravens.
You're like, I hope it collapses.
Yeah. Did you not just see Russ cook? Huh?
That's why Tomlin's well compensated.
Yeah, that was
a good line.
I love Mike T.
Yeah.
He's like, but I think they're really good.
Yeah.
But that defense is not. It's just okay.
Here's the only team I would probably fight you on, and I get that the Ravens have looked better. Kansas City just scares the crap out of me.
Your boy is leading the league in interceptions, though.
I don't care.
He's still the only guy you trust in nut cutting time,
yes,
right?
Yeah. And their defense is so damn good.
Yeah.
That's what scares me more than anything is
Spags has been a stud for. Yeah, I get it.
They've got an incredible defense, and then by the way, Patrick Mahomes is going to figure it out.
Because tomorrow I probably would still take the Chiefs head to head if it was a game that mattered.
That's the thing. The Ravens have played better. Still more scared of the Chiefs. Patrick Herb coming up to talk about Wisconsin. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We're joined now by Patrick Herb. He's a sideline reporter for Wisconsin Radio Network. Patrick, how are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you guys?
We're recovering. You know, as we get ready to travel to Columbus, we are recovering. Coach said something interesting that we talk about here a lot that has kind of been missing at times, the word complementary. When Coach says complementary football, and he's talking about this Wisconsin team, what does it look like for you?
I'll give you the perfect example of what he's referring to from Saturday's win at Northwestern. So the team, it's a 7-0 game, second quarter, 2 minutes remaining or so, and going into halftime. And Wisconsin's on the plus 38, maybe, of the field, plus 36. They've got a fourth down. He elects to punt. Now, this season in general, he's been one of the more aggressive coaches in the Big Ten at going for it on fourth down. I think Wisconsin's gone 11 or 12 times on fourth down. So earlier this season, that might have been an opportunity where he says, you know what, no, let's trust our offense. Let's go for it here, try to get points on this. Instead, they punt. They pin Northwestern inside the 5 on a nice punt. So your offense doesn't get the job done necessarily of moving the chains, but your special teams comes up, makes a big play. All right, so then they're pinned inside the 5. Northwestern, for some unknown reason, elects to throw the ball out of their own end zone, sack strip by the defense making a play. Wisconsin recovers at the 3, punches it in next play for an offensive touchdown. So there's a sequence of offense makes a decision that in the moment some people might go, oh, man, you're punting from the plus 38. Well, he's doing it because he thinks the special teams are going to make a play, and they're going to make a play that's going to set up the defense to make a play, which is then going to give the ball back to the offense to score the touchdown. To me, that is the exact root of complementary football, that when coaches talk about it, that's what they mean. All 3 phases, like helping each other and playing off each other.
Patrick, as speaking of complementary football, have you seen the offense shift more towards that, or the team in general shift more towards that in the last few weeks? I think there was a lot of consternation around Wisconsin after a couple early season games that maybe people thought they were closer than they should have been. Obviously, you had the 2 high-profile losses. Do you think they've gotten better at that as the season's gone along?
Yes, I do. The big word around here was identity. Coming out of those first 4 games, which was
jeez.
No, that struck a nerve with you guys.
Preaching to the choir over here, Patrick.
Yeah.
But that was the narrative that media wanted to talk about, that fans wanted. What is this team's identity? Wisconsin used to be known for X, Y, Z. Now what are we? And so Wisconsin's gone through a transition, obviously, of totally changing their offensive philosophy with going into with Phil Longo as the offensive coordinator, and he's got air raid concepts. It's very different than Mike Leach's air raid, where Mike Leach was allergic to running the football. Wisconsin runs the ball more than they pass it. So they've not abandoned some of that. But they've changed philosophy. They go out of the shotgun. They go no huddle. They go 4 or 5 wide sometimes. And so that's been an adjustment for people. And I think Wisconsin also is trying to figure out how to mesh what they're good at with what they want to do philosophically. And it's maybe taken a few weeks, but I think the last 3 games, if that's what they're going to be, then that's really to try and work to try to get his body right. What that's done is that's opened up like a redefining of distribution and redefining of the carries of the running back room. And so now Tawi Walker, this transfer from Oklahoma, has emerged as that bell cow. In the last 2 weeks, he's had 23 and 24 carries, and he's ran for 360 yards in those 2 games.
Yep.
So he's a guy that, probably needs more than 11, 12 carries to wear down the other team. Also, this offensive line is really veteran group. They've got combined 138 starts among them. And so this team is leaning on them and leaning on that run game to then establish what they want in the passing game. And right now it's flourishing. The Tawi Walker story is cool.
Yeah.
He's a kid who had really 0 Division I interest coming out of high school, went to a JUCO for a year, then bet on himself, transferred to Oklahoma as a walk-on, spent 2 years as a walk-on at Oklahoma. They weren't going to give him that scholarship for a new opportunity, betting on himself again, finds a home at Wisconsin, gets on scholarship, and now he's turned into a feature back and is emerging as actually one of the better backs in the Big Ten. It's a cool story about how the transfer portal can work in the right way for an athlete.
Patrick, it's almost 6 degrees of separation. It's almost uncanny. So one of the things, and I just finished the broadcast Saturday, and I go back and I watch Indiana yesterday or Sunday, and I talked yesterday morning about they do a few things concept-wise, right? An inside threat, an outside threat, and a vertical threat in their RPO game. It doesn't seem like much, but they're so efficient at the few things. There's just a high mastery level. When you look at Wisconsin and them simplifying the playbook since Locke has gotten there, right, since the change, and I watched those first 2 games where you were a lot of a little. Now it seems like you bring up the running back thing. You have 2 really good targets plus your tight end now in the passing game. How much more explosive have you guys gotten just simply because you're better at a few things as opposed to being okay at a lot?
Yeah, that's an interesting way you put it. I'll push back a little bit that they simplified the playbook under Locke. In reality, one of Locke's strengths is probably his biggest strength is his mastery of the offense. He's been running the air raid since he was a high school freshman, and that's one of the reasons he and Longo were such a good match when he transferred from Mississippi State.
Maybe that's why it looks this. Maybe that's why everything looks the same. Because I would think simple, but
you might be right.
Yeah. Okay.
So what he lacks in maybe high end arm talent and ability to be dynamic with his feet. And move the chains that way. What he lacks in some of those, and maybe height, he's 6 foot, 6'1". What he lacks in those, he makes up in the cerebral part. And Longo praises him so often for his ability to. He calls it the twilight zone. From the moment when the play is signaled in to the moment when it's snapped, that whatever it's going to be, 4, 8, 9 second window, where Locke is standing over the line of scrimmage, surveying and diagnosing, and then at times changing. And so against Purdue, Longo said he changed 17 play calls. They ran 74 snaps of offense. He changed 17 at the line of scrimmage. He changed 16 of them successfully. Against Rutgers, he was 9 for 9 on the ones he changed. I don't know what it was this last game against Northwestern. I'll be curious to find out. But that's what he credits him for, is that, Longo says, if we're relying on me to outsmart the defensive coordinator on every play, we're in trouble. He's got the humility about himself that way. So he knows. He's like, I'm going to call the wrong play sometimes. We're going to line up, and they're going to be lined up differently, and we say, oh, this isn't going to work. And Locke has a really good grasp of, all right, how do I change out of this to get to something that's more effective? And sometimes it's simplifying it. Sometimes it's, I'm going to take my shot right now down to Vinny Anthony on a 50-yard go and see what happens. And that's been a really, really valuable development these last 3 weeks.
That's interesting. I think Nebraska fans would be surprised that both Nebraska and Wisconsin convert at almost a 44% third down rate. And Nebraska fans are like, wait, what? But a lot of it, way it looks different for Wisconsin, you guys only have 4 penalties a game, right? It's top 10, 12 in the country. As the offense has become more efficient, the penalties have come down. That can't be coincidence.
No, I think you're right, and that was a big emphasis in the offseason, that last year the team was plagued too much, beat themselves too often, made mistakes, not just one side of the ball. Like it was a little bit of everybody all together in this, and yeah, they're averaging 28 penalty yards per game, which is third in the country. It's just that's a dramatic difference, and part of it is the offensive line. So the left tackle, Jack Nelson, I don't want to pick on him, but this is part of the narrative, and he was pretty forthright with it in the offseason. He was the most penalized player in the Big Ten last year. He had 12 penalties, combination of false starts and holds. And he's a good player. He's an NFL. He might move to guard in the NFL, but he's an NFL offensive lineman, and he just didn't maximize his value last season. And he came back because he wanted a better season. Now he's had 2 penalties in 7 games. And it's a lot on Jack doing things right. It's also on, they brought in a new offensive line coach who's kind of just changed things about some of the fundamentals and how they're coaching them. But it's an emphasis across the board of not beating themselves. And so I agree. I don't think it's coincidental that the penalties have come down and the team's performing better.
That's Patrick Erb. He's the sideline reporter for Wisconsin. Patrick, we appreciate the time. We'll catch up again soon.
Good stuff, Patrick. Always appreciate you.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. That's CB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We've got Mike J. Schaefer from Husker 24/7 to start the third hour. We'll be back. AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. Schaefer, what's going on, man?
Oh, not a ton. How we doing on a Tuesday morning, gentlemen?
Good. So was there anything that you liked in last night's games outside of potentially the uniforms?
In the NFL. In the 2 Monday games? Yeah. Well, I was on the Bucks, and I was feeling really good when that ball hit Mike Evans right in the hands, right in the end zone, right before his hamstring just looked like it blew out entirely. And then I still felt pretty good.
Yeah.
Because this is hard to believe. I'm a Baker Mayfield guy. I was not a Baker Mayfield guy.
I'm a Baker Mayfield guy as well.
What has happened, as usually is the case, I love the narrative. I love the total redemption. I watched him last year with the Bucks, and they played the Vikings first game of the year. I was like, this guy looks different. He's playing different. So I kept watching. He kept getting better. I mean, just been impressed by him. But that interception to Humphrey, the first one in the end zone, absolutely just killed that Bucks team. Even before everything else had went wrong later in that game, they had a real chance to really put the fear in the Ravens.
I said a couple weeks ago, and I maybe was premature, and it hurt me as a Steelers fan. I felt like the Ravens are the best team in football. Even though that defense is a little leaky at times for their personnel, would you agree? Or as long as that guy is still quarterbacking in KC, is that not the case?
I mean, if you were going to rank out the teams that you'd least want to play, the Ravens are up there, because having to stop both Lamar and Derrick Henry, and then if they can get things going in the passing game and figure out the Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely thing, you have 2 really good tight ends there. I mean, Zay Flowers is good when he's available. Yeah, I mean, I think the Ravens are up there with anybody, with the Chiefs, with the Lions. They're right there. I mean, they're not a team you're excited to play if they're on your schedule. There's no question about that.
How good is Kansas City to be in the position they are, and they have a quarterback that leads the NFL in interceptions?
I was thinking about this. Remember how, like, when the Patriots dynasty started, it was all like Belichick's defense, and then Brady was just kind of managing things, and then 2008 happens, or 2007 happens, and you have Randy Moss, and suddenly you get to see like what kind of offensive quarterback Tom Brady really could be. Is it weird that we're in like the reverse of this now, where the Chiefs defense is kind of their their beacon of what that team is, and Patrick Mahomes' job is just to kind of keep them hanging around long enough, or just have them playing in front with a lead that you let the defense just clean everything else up, and you have it baked in your DNA that you can make big plays in late moments with random street free agents. Like it's like a reversal of how the Patriots dynasty started. The Chiefs are now in their, actually, we're a defensive football era.
It does seem that way now that the run, it's all that too high safety stuff. Schaefer, you
can't throw anymore. You can't throw anymore.
I don't know. I mean, they can still get the ball to Justin Jefferson. It ain't that hard.
To your point, Schaefer, Brady in his first 6 years in the NFL, 12, 14, 12, 14, 14, 12. Those are his interceptions.
Yeah.
Anybody be blown away by that?
And it's, you know what else is interesting is the top, the three guys that have 8 picks apiece: Mahomes, Love, and Shane's Gardner Minshew. It doesn't even make any sense.
Well, one of them makes sense.
Love, right?
I told him not to pay him. I told him.
You can only throw 500 balls for so long and not see the other team come down with them. Look, I get that we all love the, off the back foot thing, but at some point there needs to be a little stability upon your throwing motion, right?
Yeah.
It's going to catch up with you.
Say, if we went through the whole breaking down like we always do of a presser, and I went on this little mini talk this morning in the first segment.
Mini talk.
Yeah, it didn't reach rant status or anything.
It wasn't a monologue. It wasn't a soliloquy.
It was a little bit of a soliloquy.
Monologue's close. It was okay. It wasn't emotional enough to be a rant.
So my thing was, I felt like he was pretty honest about those mythical demons of lack of confidence and needing to get over that mental hump. But he said, "Hey, that's life. Like, you play football here. Let's just deal with it and move on. We need to be better." But in the same vein, if you need to be in B gap, be in B gap. If you need to win out on the perimeter, win out on the perimeter. Are you more surprised that the psychology was baked in there, or the fact that Nebraska seems to struggle doing the simple well when it goes bad?
I think it's always the simple for me. I mean, it's on both sides of the ball. It was pretty evident. I mean, all 3 phases. It was pretty evident on Saturday. They didn't do anything simple. They didn't tackle. They weren't filling gaps correctly. I mean, on the big 3rd down run, Deshaun Singleton comes all the way down, and not only does he completely miss, he wipes out his defensive lineman and Nash Hutmaker on his way through. I mean, the frustration, I guess, that I have is that it looked as poorly as it did after 2 weeks off. The question I sort of have now that it's over is, okay, like, what does the response look like? Last year, when they got absolutely trashed by Michigan, they came back and they played a really hard-hitting game against Illinois, and they played well, and they won. I shouldn't say they played well. It's ugly, but they won. Like what?
Two of those quarters were good. I remember that quarter was.
I just mean, like, what is the response going to look like? Because that's kind of the big question here. And so the problem is, you go against an Ohio State team where
they're coming off
they have a lot more talent than you. I don't know that people felt that about Indiana, but it certainly looked that way on Saturday. But that with Ohio State, they're going to come in with a ton of talent. They just lost their first game. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be looking to bounce back. So there is no breather here. You have to pick yourself up, and you have to go play as a football team. And they have to flush that game. I mean, it's hard, but they have to flush that game. And you have to go show something against Ohio State. If they can go play at a high level against Ohio State and at least make the Buckeyes earn things, I think they can win back some respect that they lost last weekend. I really do.
Over all these years, you strike me as 2 things: pretty matter of fact and fairly competitive, even though it may be quiet competitive. Would you rather be the team that feels like, hey, you know what? I didn't empty the gas tank and this blowout, I'm motivated? Or you think you would gravitate towards, I can't believe after this many years playing college football, I didn't empty the tank in a blowout?
I mean, I guess the first one, like it's to
With
me,
with this particular team, I mean.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. It's hard to be in the psyche of what these guys are thinking. I kept asking myself on Saturday, Ty Robinson came back for this. Nash Hutmaker is back for this. Like, they got their ass kicked up front. Like, what did you come back for? And
I got you.
Like if you're the competitor that you are,
well, he told us he's back from Colorado, so he's done. No, sorry.
Wow.
But it's just the idea of like, you came back to win football games. You came back to do to Indiana what's happening to you. You came back to play at a high level. And frankly, of all the things that happened on Saturday, the defensive line sort of no-show is the thing that I probably regard with the most, like, what the hell was that? I can understand if you can't tackle at the second and third level. We've seen that happen this year. I can understand Nebraska's offense is in a bad spot for a lot of different reasons, and they've got a lot of different things they have to clean it up. The one thing that I believed in my core about this team was their defensive line. And they got their ass kicked. There's no other way to phrase it. And they came back for super senior years, for extra years, to have this opportunity to help lead Nebraska football. And they went to Bloomington against a ranked team and got absolutely pushed around, pushed into the dirt. Like, if you're any kind of competitor, I don't know how you aren't raring ready to go right now, because you came back to play this year, and that's the film that you have out for you. If someone from Indiana gets drafted, you can bet that film is going to be Nebraska's defense out there. Like, if that doesn't just burn you inside, I don't understand what it is that you're playing for. I really don't. But that's how I am. And again, that's what I kept thinking on Saturday. You have a veteran defense, and it looked like that. There's no way you can let that be what the future is for the next 5 games. There's not a chance, at least if you have that fight in you, if you're going to go out there and prove it. But that's what they have to do. They have to pick themselves up. And again, I was as stunned as anything by how bad that defensive line played.
Okay, can I ask? I'm sorry.
No,
Rovi.
go ahead.
Because this is still with D-line. Did you think that Nebraska got away from substituting up front? It seemed like it real time.
I don't think they trust their depth the way they did last year. I just don't think that they, for as much as they were excited about guys like Elijah Judy and some others in the offseason, it hasn't gone well. Vincent Carroll Jackson or Vincent Carroll, either one. Sorry, Vincent, but he's not at the level where he's able to take enough of those snaps away. I think it really hurts they don't have Riley Van Poppel. I think that's one of those decisions that you're going to kind of look at and you're going to wonder, is getting him on the back end of his career worth not having him for the 2024 season? I wonder if there's just a little bit further gap in that defensive line. I mean, I like what Keona Davis is going to be. He couldn't be that on Saturday because your top guys weren't good enough on Saturday. So it's not just a rotation. I mean, no one played well, but I do think that they're not as deep on the defensive line as I thought they were going to be because guys haven't quite risen to the level that I would have expected they'd be at.
Okay, Schaefer, I got a couple questions here for you, kind of based on this conversation, right?
Okay, so you're back in on this one?
Yeah, I got tagged in.
Okay.
So
I just want to know where to look.
Number one, you mentioned you didn't think like Keona Davis, for example, or whoever was going to be able to play better than the starters on Saturday. So in your mind, how much of what we saw do you think is, hey, Indiana actually just was better up front than Nebraska? And how much of it do you think is what Coach Rule said yesterday, when you start second guessing things, you turn from a really good defense into an average defense really quickly?
The line I've been using this week is I want to find out if Saturday was the Shane Falco quicksand game that he talked about in the replacements. if it's just where something goes wrong and then the next thing goes wrong. And then the harder you're fighting against it, the worse you're actually playing because you're not relying on any of your teaching or your coaching. And you're just like sinking deeper and deeper into the muck. I mean, that's what Saturday looked like. It looked like the more Nebraska wanted to try to do something, particularly on defense, the worse it was going to look. And then suddenly no one was playing well at any level. I don't have that same thought with the offense. I think it's a different thought process. But with this defense, what I really just want to know is, did they just have a no good, horrible, bad day? Because that does happen in football.
It's a book, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Alexander, I think, is the one who has it. But, Hudson will learn about that in years to come, I'm sure. But one of the things that's difficult is that we know this isn't a great team, right? Like, we know they're not a great team. But we think they could be a good team aspiring to being a great team. And sometimes good teams have bad days. And could that bad day have just been magnified by everything else going wrong? I think there's issues there. There's no doubt about that. But I think at least defensively, I'm going to give them every opportunity to prove that they aren't the team that we watched on Saturday. Because I don't believe that they are. But that's what they look like. And that's what your latest game film tells you are.
Schaefer, all right, so here's the second part of that question is when you're dealing with veteran groups like the defensive line, defensive back room, there's a few places that you've got young guys behind them that you like. How do you keep the young guys to keep the standard when it doesn't seem like the old guys ahead of them are keeping that standard and the young guys don't get a chance?
I mean, I think the idea is that you have to preach that the standard exists beyond just the Saturdays. The standard exists when you're at practice. The standard exists when you're lifting. The standard exists when you're doing the nutrition. I mean, it's got to be a lifestyle, right? Like, it's not something you just turn on and off like it's a switch when you go into a room to turn a light on. The standard is something that you're supposed to live with. If I'm understanding how they're preaching it, if I'm understanding what it's supposed to be, it's an ethos. It's not an adoptive elective. It's something that you're going to be when you're away from the field, and it's something you're going to be when you're on the field. And so I think in order to get there, you have to be about that all the time. And, even if the guys in front of you aren't necessarily about that, if this is what it's supposed to be, I think then that's where you're trying to get. I know that's a very word salady answer, but it's sort of a tough, again, existential question about what's going on mentally with these guys. I don't think that they should.
But what you're getting ready to say is, I think, the crux of what happens going forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have to learn from this. They have to be able to accept what happened and figure out how it doesn't happen again. And then also learn and trust that the other guys, the other 11, the other 10, I guess, when you're on defense, are also going to be confident and are going to be playing high and going to be putting in that standard. And then it's on the coaching staff to figure out who's holding up that standard and who deserves to play and who deserves to be in. Because it's not like what we saw on Saturday wasn't, we saw glimpses of a lot of these things throughout the year. I mean, they've had issues with tackling at times. They certainly haven't been as good in space as they were last year. They haven't always flown to the ball. They got blown out on the defensive line at times against Illinois. So all of this was on film previously. It just all happened at once. How do you make sure this doesn't happen again? And if you're the coaching staff, do you have to look at the personnel? Do you have to look at, does someone else deserve an opportunity here? If the same guy is making mistakes, is it time to try something else?
All right, so let's flip over to because we heard, and this is merely based on what Coach Rule said. If blocking on the perimeter has been an issue all year, which you go back to what you said earlier, doing simple well and just being able to do the little things. Is that the first place you could start with? Just how good is our culture and the whole next man up and the standard is the standard kind of thing?
I mean, I think that you can start anywhere on the offense with the idea that simple is hard for them. I mean, right now they can't do little things. And if you can't do the little things, you certainly can't do the more creative things. And it's hard to expect success if you're not able to do the little things. But yeah, I mean, I'm sort of at the point where I understand again what the veteran wide receivers are giving you, but I'm also watching some of these blocks and some of these attempts at blocks, and I don't know why it looks this bad. I really don't. And to me, blocking, and again, this is just going off of years of interviews. It's certainly not from the experience of playing college football, but blocking is very much a want to. It is very much a, I'm going to go and do this. There's technical aspects of it, absolutely. But there's the mental aspect of, I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to take him out of the play. And that is what my role here is. And I'm going to do this as effectively as I can. And when you watch some of those screen passes, were you seeing that from Nebraska's blockers on the perimeter? And it wasn't just Saturday. This is what I mean. This stuff has been on film. I mean, people have been talking about Nebraska's perimeter blocking since the UTEP game. Matt Rule's been talking about it enough this fall. At some point, we keep talking about it, but it's the same people who keep making mistakes. You're a culture of accountability. Are those guys, should they continue to be in? You know, and then on top of it, block, and you're not winning your one-on-one routes against quarters coverage on the outside. You know, not to go all office space, but what is it that you would say you do here as a wide receiver? I mean, that's pretty rough.
Schaefer, two questions. Two questions about the
Is
wide.
that unfair? I don't think that's unfair.
It's just really funny. You got a couple good movie pulls today, Schaefer. I got two questions. I got two questions about the wide receivers. Okay. Number one, how much of an unwillingness to either put different guys in or hold the guys that are struggling in perimeter blocking comes to a disconnect in the identity of what they want the offense to be, right? Because if you want to be a power running team, you probably need your best blockers out there. If you want to try and take advantage of your 5-star freshman quarterback, you probably want the best receivers, or you probably want the best pass catchers out there. Like, how much of it is just like, hey, we don't totally know who we want to be on offense, so we don't totally know which receivers give us the best opportunity to do that?
I don't know how you're going to know what receivers are going to give you the best opportunity when you act like a different offense 6 games of the year. I mean, you didn't see this play calling against Illinois. I mean, Nebraska was throwing the ball all over the yard against Illinois. Like, that was – they played better against Illinois than most of the teams that Illinois had played since, including Michigan and Penn State. And Dylan Raiola looked every bit of a 5-star quarterback, and your receivers looked every bit of an offense that could go and make plays downfield in the Big Ten, in a Big Ten game, in a big environment, and you had an opportunity to win that game. That's why against Indiana.
What you just said, Schaefer, is why I said yesterday I'm not ready to have the talent conversation yet.
I don't think it's a talent issue. I don't know that they're being put in the right position to be successful.
Or
I don't know that
it's like the D line, Schaefer. If I'm a coach, I want options. And if I don't like the way a guy's playing, I'm not going to, even if because I may get something else emotionally that doesn't show up.
That'll offset the physical.
Whatever you feel like it is, or the know-how. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
You're just like,
I don't know at this point now, 7 games into the season, I no longer know what it is that the offense is trying to do. They're running a screen game to simulate running the football because they can't run the football. You can't be a power running team if your offensive line can't get from the first level to the second level with any kind of consistency. And they can't. I
don't think it's really fair to ask them. Fair is not the right word. This isn't like crybaby set, but for me, schematically, it looks like a numbers thing, Schaefer. You're using 5 to block 6. You want your running back to be responsible for the free defender because there's no other running threat in the backfield. You either got to use another back as a viable option or another lead blocker. Like, it's just not.
You have to commit to passing and spread it out and effectively create routes and concepts down the field. They're caught in the middle. It's really no different than their defense not knowing if a team's going to run or pass and looking like they're in the middle. Nebraska as a program is caught in the middle right now.
That's Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7. Schaefer, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Mike J.
All right, guys, I'll try to bring some different movie references next week for you.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Before we get to Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, we've got a special guest, I think a friend of DB's, joining us on the show. Brandon, what's going on?
Damon, what's going on, my man?
B. Will, how we doing, man? What do I owe the honor?
Man.
What'd you hear? You heard so you either heard NFL talk or Michigan. Which is it?
Hey, Michigan, we just celebrated last year's championship. this year, we just kind of right now we're just getting ready for the next upcoming season. We just happy to be still celebrating last year.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something real quick before we get to the NFL, because I think that's what you want to talk about. But
you guys bringing in a quarterback next year? Or no?
Yeah. What was the sentiment with you alum with Coach Moore and how it's going?
So the one thing we have Jaden Daniels or Davis.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard about him for the last couple of years. Last year we went to the national championship. Like me and my sons went to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So after the game, we were hanging out with, in the area, the hotel and stuff. And Denard Robinson was high on Jalen Davis. So going into the season, I knew he wasn't going to be ready just because I could see him. I was looking at him, and he didn't, size-wise, he didn't look big. So I knew he needed some time. Going into the season, we were all under the impression it was going to be tough. That was the impression that we all had going into the season. Alex Orji actually used to play 7-on-7 for me down here in Texas. So Alex and, his throwing issues that everybody makes a big deal of, that's been forever.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So that was no surprise. So to me, I had to, in my mind, we go in there and we use, I hate to use this guy as an example, but we use the Urban Meyer offense, what he did with Tim Tebow and JT Barrett. A lot of elaborate handoffs, a lot of let the quarterback run. We got some good running backs. And I mean, that's now 37 yards passing the game. Damn, you got to try to do. I don't even know how you do that. Like, I don't even know. Not even being that guy, but I would get 37 yards a game passing. You know what I mean? Like, you have to try. That's a bunch of 3-yard passes with no yak. And so we kind of expected it to be. Now, nobody. We when Harbaugh left, or there weren't many good quarterbacks available in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
Once JJ declared, I mean, you should have kind of known, seen the writing on the wall. You got that type of team. JJ's doing well. He's going to go to the league. So we all kind of thought we could have got somebody.
Mm.
But I think the biggest issue is the play calling with who we got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when we had the kid that went the first time,
Orgy,
Davis Warren.
Warren.
Yeah. So with him, nothing. First of all, I don't like bad mouthing kids because they're kids and they're trying. But Warren, I mean, he's coming off of. They made a big deal about it. He had like a type of cancer,
leukemia, and he missed 1.5 years of high school.
Man, so that's, I mean, to watch him play and the way they called the game, they made it seem like it was a favor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when Orgy came in, we had Davis Warren. He's airing it out like he's, Tom Brady. And then when Orgy comes in and he's 37 yards, a game and this and that. So my thing with that, if we got Davis Warren airing it out, throwing interceptions, at least let this dude throw interceptions. At least let him try.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's not just sit here and let everybody load the box with 10 in the box and, beat our head against the wall. So me and my son went up to the Texas game, and what I will say, the biggest surprise for Michigan with me this year is the defense. the defense not being able to stop the run, not being sturdy. The big selling point with the new Winkleman, or the new D coordinator, is same Baltimore Raven tree. But it's the same tree, different branch. So stuff's different. Like we had two coaches from the same Raven tree.
Mm-hmm.
One was a blitzer, one was a zone guy, or one was a man guy, one was a zone guy. And what we have now is more of a blitzer, and he's kind of like the Don Brown era.
Oh,
you know
boy.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Where we kind of blitz.
Feast or famine.
So, yeah, exactly. And it's gonna. I can't say Indiana anymore. It's gonna ball out against Purdue, but you start playing those real teams that can pick up blitzes, and the quarterback got a little savvy to him. It's not gonna work.
Mm.
So,
speaking
going into the season, I can honestly say most of us had us slated for just the players. I don't know about the fans. Fans are losing their mind right now, but players, we had us losing 4 games. Most of us had a 8-4, 7-5 prediction.
Yeah.
Oregon's gonna be tough. Texas was obviously, we figured we would lose that. Ohio State's gonna be tough. At this point, Sparty's not a given. And then I didn't plan on losing to Washington or some of those other games, but I will say, going into the season, I was very public with, for what we won last year, I'll take this. Yeah. I don't give a dang what's going on.
All right, so it's our bet on it segment, but we had to get to the phone call. What are you betting on when we talk about Patrick Mahomes?
You can't say Pat Mahomes is losing anything. Pat Mahomes is playing with a bunch of high school people right now.
I knew you were going to say that.
Hey man, if the Chiefs lose Pat Mahomes, they're trash. They have lost everything but Pat Mahomes. I didn't know they're the only undefeated team in the league.
Yeah.
And that's
it's amazing.
Brady had Welker, man. And I mean, Kelsey right now is a house husband, so Kelsey's not doing anything.
Wow.
Listen, she's the breadwinner. He's got to be.
That's tough.
Hey, Brady at least did his job well when he wasn't the breadwinner. Brady at least still came out and won MVPs.
Yeah, and she
Kelsey's
left him.
Not even the best.
What is wrong with you two?
Yeah.
And she was like, "Deuces, you're not home enough. Take care of the kids."
Hey, he's best. Hey, he's best player ever. Somebody got to sacrifice. Somebody got to take that L.
It was his marriage.
The fact that Mahomes, like last year with the, he had the receivers they brought in, the one from the Giants. I can't think of his name. That was jumping off sides, costing them games and things like that.
Tony.
Like,
yeah, Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney. Yeah. So that season, I felt like last year was like the Chiefs title, maybe the divisional round and lose. But the fact that he won with that, with the circus around him, my man is dating Taylor Swift, but that brings a circus, man. Like now, Mahomes' family can't even watch the game without being part of the circus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a circus. So to be able to maneuver all that and still throwing behind the back passes, I don't even know half the people he's throwing the ball to. And I'm telling you, I did not expect them to be undefeated. My son told me yesterday, like, yeah, the Chiefs are the last undefeated team.
Yeah.
Like, undefeated in what?
Hey, real quick. If you're Tua, do you come back?
Man, that's tough. So I heard Chris Canty say something that makes a lot of sense. And I at first I was, you got to sit down. I'm telling my son plays. So I'm telling her, you got to think about this, think about that. But Damon, I'm gonna be honest. When we were playing, man, you'd have to pull me out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, I think I would play.
Yeah, like I understand him. I understand what he's saying. Now, Chris Canty said this. Chris Canty agreed with us, but he said once I got my big check, once I got that big payday, I may feel different about it. So Tua has, I think, a guaranteed 100 or 200 million coming. That would be the only thing that will make me think different. But, how being retired,
yeah,
I miss and I had to check myself because at first, I was saying, I'm following the masses. Yeah, you gotta sit down, man. That's 5 concussions, and I mean, man, you think about it, Damon. We probably got a concussion every day at practice.
That's why I talk the way I do, B. Will. I'm just teasing. I appreciate you, Brandon.
Appreciate the call. That's
Man, no doubt.
Sort of Bet on It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Make sure you go to Warhorse Sportsbook in Omaha or in Lincoln and get registered. You can win $10,000 this last weekend here in October as well. Coming up next, we're going to talk a little more college football. We've got Robert Rosenthal from IlliniBoard.com here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up the show here on a Tuesday on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Robert Rosenthal of IlliniBoard.com. Robert, how are you this morning?
You just had to take me back to that moment of the Purdue game, didn't you?
Well, listen, we've been suffering a little bit this week, so we kind of had to get the closest to what you guys had, which was still a win, which I guess is nice, but yeah, no, we couldn't let everybody have sunshine and rainbows. Not going to give you the Michigan call or anything. Come on, man.
That's right.
So you look back, I'm just looking at a lot of people's Big Ten rankings, and it's in some order, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. I think it's interesting because I think most people have Indiana and Illinois 4-5 kind of right there. At this stage of the season, at what point did you tell yourself, you know what? We may be pretty good.
I don't even know if I said it yet.
I was saying, have you got there yet, Robert?
I mean, look, here's the thing. So for an Illinois fan, 30 years of bad football, and, I could quote all of the, 6 winning seasons across 27 years and all this kind of stuff. The goal for the Illinois fan base is to, can we just maybe be competitive again? Can it just not be the Big Ten seasons where there's 3 competitive games, maybe you win 2 of them and you go 2-7 in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And so for competitive football to have returned, where you're in every game, no matter who it is, that's the thing that people have grasped onto. Is it the turnaround that Indiana's talking about right now where they're dominating everyone? No, but that's perfectly fine. This is a different brand of football. It is it is built to stay in every game kind of thing.
Mm.
And it's working. And, 3 close games, 2 in overtime, Purdue and Nebraska, and 1, this Michigan game was, fairly close in certain points, and it was at least in doubt until the interception at the 3-yard line. And so, that's kind of where Illinois fans are at, I think. 6-1 and being ranked is glorious. The fact that a couple of games have been really close, and you probably aren't going to win when you give up 46 points to Purdue after halftime. But, whatever it has taken in these games to get the win, they've gotten the win. And that's the thing I think people have really grasped onto.
Robert, as you kind of talked stylistically about how Illinois tried to build this thing under Bielema. I mean, don't the close wins kind of come with the territory? That's kind of just how you guys are going to play, isn't it?
Yes. And it's going to frustrate the Penn States of the world. Look, Illinois is playing Penn State, and Penn State was really dominating statistically, but Illinois had the ball at the 50 with 6 minutes to go with a chance to tie and threw an interception. So, even in games where they're outmatched and outclassed and out-athleted, they're still in those games. And so that's the thing that people have really noticed as the difference of, maybe the grind it out, slow it down, run clock, wait until 5 seconds on the play clock early in the third quarter, and the fans are like, come on, run a play. Maybe that can be frustrating at times, but nobody can question how it's worked in Champaign so far.
Yeah, 26 minutes time of possession, only 80 yards passing. I think you converted 3 third downs. I think you had 80 yards passing. And I'm not sure I ever felt like Michigan was going to win that game. right?
Yep.
I know you guys were +3 in turnovers, and that's huge, but I don't know when I felt like, oh my gosh, Illinois is in trouble. It didn't seem like Illinois was ever really in what I call trouble. Those stats, though, are mind-boggling.
Yeah, it really is. And, I've been watching it for 4 years now, and, it's amazing how the little things can overcome everything you just listed. Like, if you told me before this Michigan, all Illinois can really do is pass this year. And, the run game's been struggling. Michigan stops the run. So you tell me, Luke Altmaier's going to go 9 for 80 or 9 for 18, 80 yards. You tell me that before the game, I'm like, Illinois loses by 27. That's the only way Illinois is going to be able to move the ball against Michigan. But no, they figured out other things. They studied film. They played a game that frustrated Michigan. They took advantage of the moments, and just like Illinois has done all season, if the drive gets into the red zone, they tighten up. This is a bend but don't break defense that has done just that, and the offense is efficient in the red zone as well and getting 7s instead of 3s. And it's just amazing. You do the little things in football, and you can overcome all the big things you're not doing well. So
believe me, this has been a 2-day look into the little things. We get it, and
yep,
it totally matters.
Robert, go ahead.
I just want to make a special teams point. Like, the return game has been really good for Illinois, especially punt returns this year. And it's just amazing when you watch a football game. If a guy gets, reels off a 26-yard punt return, that's kind of 3 first downs your offense doesn't need to get, Like, the field position thing is what has been so good for Illinois this year of, like, look, if you got a good punter, you can pin them deep. It's the Iowa thing, right? Like, we're not going to give up 90 yards. We might get up 60 yards, but it's not going to be 90. And, when you change those little things, it's amazing how the outcomes change.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat yesterday or the day before. It's the average expected point outcome of starting on the 25 is 2.5 points. Add half a point for every 5 yards of the start.
Yep.
That's.
Yep. And so when you have these teams, like, what is Indiana? They're doing a clinic on that of, like, shorten your fields, increase your points, all those little things of, like, money balling football, I guess. So, it's just, it's kind of crazy to watch it after watching such inefficiency in Champaign for 30 years.
Robert, I don't know if you're trying to incite a riot within our fan base, just bringing up special teams and stuff like that, but it's okay. Before we get to the Oregon game, and I'm a question that I'm sure is going to make you uncomfortable about the rest of the season. How much has Luke Altmaier improved from last year to this year? Because that's a guy I looked at last year and go, oh, he's fine. He's okay. This year I watched Luke Altmaier play and I go, that dude's legitimately pretty good.
Yeah. I think the decision-making is the biggest thing. He threw 10 picks last year, only 1 so far this year. We've seen a couple plays where he almost stops his arm halfway through a throw and, like, spikes it. You can tell that he's spent the entire offseason working on, Illinois could have beat Penn State if I didn't throw those 4 interceptions last year kind of thing. And so that's the biggest thing. He's always had the wheels, and he's a great running quarterback that kind of people, it's kind of a secret of his kind of thing. And he's got 2 receivers he trusts. And, it's all just kind of come together for him. But the biggest thing is he would have the stats last year and then throw 2 picks that were just, killing the momentum in the game and that type of thing. So, yeah, it's impressive, and only a junior, Illinois fans are already talking about, like, man, this NIL season is going to be interesting because there's going to be big dogs that might want to say, hey, that guy could be really good for us next year.
Robert, as we look ahead to Oregon and the rest of the season for Illinois, I know that you have all of the weight of being an Illinois fan for a very long time, but have you looked at the rest of the schedule and seen, like, maybe this is a 10-2 football team?
Yeah, it's frightening, right? Like, Illinois would like if Vegas put lines to the games right now after Oregon, is home Minnesota, home Michigan State, at Rutgers, home, or actually neutral in Wrigley Field for Northwestern.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois probably favored in those 4 games.
Yeah.
And 10-2 is probably, Father, forgive me for I'm about to say these words, probably a playoff consideration.
I mean, you're in the conversation, right?
Team, yes. So Illinois could lose to Oregon and still make the playoff.
How uncomfortable are you right now?
Yes, I'm squirming inside.
Wow.
I'm glad I'm out of town because I feel like if I said those words in Champaign, like a tree would fall on me or something.
No.
It's
but it's crazy, right? Like,
yeah,
you win these close games and you win the 2 overtime games, Nebraska and Purdue, and you beat a Michigan and you avoid any pitfalls elsewhere. You put yourself in a position where 4 games where you're going to favor could get you to 10-2. That's insane.
Robert, we'll get you out of here on this. With the Oregon game specifically, what is the path forward to giving Illinois a chance in that game? Is it the same thing as Penn State, just make it as ugly and kind of Illinois-y as possible?
Illinois,
I like that. I'm going to use that. Yeah, I think I actually saw some of their opener against Idaho and saw a few of the flaws. So, like, Oregon's number 1 right now, but if Illinois was playing Ohio State, I'd be much more scared kind of thing. Like, they do have some flaws. They haven't been perfect. They played a close game against their FCS opponent for a half. So, there is some stuff out there that's, that makes you say, Oregon's probably maybe the 7th best team in the country. I'm not sure they're the number 1 team in the country. So there's a little hope in that, but we're still talking about an Illinois team that if the other team gets rolling and you're not slowing down drives, look what Purdue did in the second half. I could really see, especially after the emotional 100-year anniversary win on Saturday, this is setting up for that ultimate, like, oh yeah, college football is really hard kind of game at Oregon.
That's Robert Rosenthal from IlliniBoard.com. Robert, we appreciate the time as always. We'll catch up with you again soon.
Thanks, Robert.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Don't forget, get to MentorOmaha.org to become a big brother, big sister, or big couple. Make sure you help young people unlock their full potential through the power of mentoring. That's MentorOmaha.org. We'll be back tomorrow.